afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for our monthly segment of Rainbow Inspirations. This is a series of chats brought to you about and by the LGBTQ community in collaboration with Blue Ridge Pride and the AARP Mountain Region. This series, we reach out to local leaders and influencers who have left us feeling inspired, and we want you to know that we appreciate your time for joining us and joining us live. And today we have with us Butch Thompson and KP Whaley. Butch, I'm going to leave it to you and KP, okay?
Wonderful. Thanks, Bria, for that. Real quickly, my name is Butch Thompson. I am the director of Generation Plus, which is the program through Blue Ridge Pride that supports and produces Rainbow Inspirations. KP, welcome.
Thank you so much, Butch. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Let's just kick it right off here and tell me a little bit where are you from? How did you end up in Asheville? What's your history like a little bit with that? And why Asheville?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in the Midwest. I was born and raised in a small town outside of Chicago. But I promptly moved away and ended up in Seattle for most of my formative years after college. There I met my husband, or then to-be husband, and we moved back across to the Midwest in Madison, Wisconsin, where he finished his schooling, and I got my bug in community radio. I had a broadcasting degree that I hadn't done anything with, and I decided when I left Seattle, I was not going to work in any sort of corporate environment anymore, and instead worked in nonprofits and community cooperatives, and ended up at this radio station, and kind of got my chops there. And then a job offer had come up in Asheville for me to come and work for a community radio station, now known as WPVM. And I got my first gig there as sort of the general manager.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about the radio station and your. It's interesting to me because you are a nonprofit, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
How does that work? That's not a normal thing in the broadcast industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's two federal licenses that you get to broadcast. One is a commercial license, and that's all the radio ads and mainstream music. And then there's the non-commercial license that you can get as well. And that's where your public radio stations, NPR models, as well as community radio stations end up on the dial. So it's a nonprofit organization typically that runs it, or a university. And the difference between public radio and community radio is the public radio typically follows that NPR model, where
Right.
they pay carriage fees to carry the big syndicated shows, and they have the small staff locally that are paid to make that station happen. Community model is all primarily volunteer driven, and so what the station I'm at now, 103.3 Asheville FM here in Asheville. They were an all volunteer station, including all the directors, all of the department heads, and including the general manager up until I was hired in 2017. So we're still, we have 2.5 full-time equivalents here at the station, and everybody else, over 100 DJs really are the ones that are producing programming, and they're all volunteers.
That's really cool. I know it's challenging to have volunteers, and a lot of times, and to keep them going like that, to keep an organization sustainable is one of the biggest things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has changed over all the years that you've been associated with the radio station and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of broadcasting and community media, which I've been involved in now going on 20 years, a lot of has been changed because of these devices here, in terms of how people connect and listen. There's a great number of people now who don't listen to an old transistor radio in their home anymore. So a lot of commercial radio, of course, focuses then on drive time, because that's when they get their listeners, and then trying to making sure that you're moving forward in the new direction too, by releasing your own, phone apps, which Asheville FM has, and making sure that you're streaming in all the streaming platforms that are available to you to stream on. And then podcasting, of course, is a way to introduce listeners to your other, radio programming. So if you have podcasts out there, it might be a way for people to first discover what you're doing and then find you on the dial.
Yeah, I have found for myself when I'm listening to your radio station, it's sometimes easier to go to the site and look and see what's coming
Yeah.
up because it has such great variety in
Yeah.
what all y'all are doing there. And I think that's what intrigues a lot of people, what draws you in there and everything.
Yeah.
You have done some great work in the LGBTQ plus community here in Asheville. And one of the things when I first met you, we talked about was a youth program that you do. And it's not necessarily for LGBTQ youth, but it is a youth program. Will you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we have a show on Sunday mornings, I think at 10, called New Wave. And what we did is we worked with some interns through the KP program, the City of Asheville's youth leadership program, as well as Goodwill Youth program. And those interns we worked with to help develop a radio show by and for Asheville youth. And several of those interns then stayed on to kind of help curate the show and find new volunteers. So we have a volunteer and outreach coordinator who works with that group of youth to produce programming that is going to be important to them. Everything. It's not just a DJ spinning music for an hour, but they have segments, movie reviews. They have word on the street or man on the street kind of interviews with other people in town. And then they also get to, choose the music that they want to listen to. It's important to them. And more importantly, it's a way for that group of individuals to then go out into the community of their community and find other youth to get involved and find out what they're interested in. So it's a good program to keep people interested in radio and broadcasting, but more importantly, it's about getting the word out about what is important to that group. At Asheville FM and community radio in general tries to lift up the voices of those underrepresented by mainstream media and those voices that are historically marginalized. And youth is one of those voices. We all get in the habit of saying, "Oh, when I was your age," or when you get older. And we patronize. And instead, what Asheville FM is trying to do is lift those voices up and give them a platform. I was just interviewing somebody today, and they talked about how 7th and 8th graders are understanding civics in the city in a way that we have no idea. And that's important. Oh. And because it's important to them, we're giving them a platform to talk about those ideas and surprise maybe some of us who didn't think that 7th and 8th graders were capable of having such thoughts.
Yeah, I know at least for me, I go back to when I was that age and I was somewhat involved in leadership type things, but not nearly what's open now in society and schools and everything.
Exactly.
So thank you for doing that. That's a wonderful program and well deserved in this community too. We have such a rich community. I don't think we often realize the younger people and what they can bring, and they are the future leaders, like we always say. So
exactly.
You do a lot of diverse programming. I know that. And one of the other things that I found really interesting was your sweet tea. And I will just say right now, I'm a sweet tea kind of guy. I grew up on Memal's sweet tea in the country, and it's dark and full of sugar. And so I love the name just to begin with. But tell me more about what exactly it is and what are you hoping to achieve with that program?
Yeah, sweet tea is what we say is an hour of radio that celebrates the LGBTQIA plus community. And we do that every week through usually a long format interview with somebody in the community, much like this platform. So we're finding queer folks or queer allies who who are really making a difference. And it could be in art or entertainment, it could be in politics. And we're highlighting those folks and spilling the tea with them is kind of what we're trying to do. The other thing that we're also doing is we always end the show with about an 8 to 10 minute wrap up of community events that are happening for the queer and LGBTQ community. So the show, it by design was supposed to, give attention to folks in our community, in our community, but also connect our community through, making sure that people understand what's available to them. And I'd like to think that we're making a difference. I know, growing up, especially in maybe the rural South, where you don't have opportunities to interact with other queer people, and you're maybe growing up closeted like I did, afraid to share your identity, and just hearing another queer person talk about their experiences gives people hopefully an opportunity to see a different life, and so that's what I hope the show can and is doing. I know, I got some really important feedback from a listener the other day. We had folks on. You're familiar with the foster care program,
Yeah.
and so fostering queer youth, especially, and having that conversation. I was contacted via Instagram after the show by a queer youth who was living in a situation that was not healthy for them.
Oh, wow.
They weren't in a good space, and so they reached out to me or to our show and wanted to get connected with our guests, so they could get out of that situation. And so it's that kind. When I hear that kind of feedback, I know we're doing the right thing. And props out to my co-host as well, Jill Kerner, who's my co-host on Sweet Tea, and also to Mickey Pondo, who helped me launch the show some time ago.
Nice. Yeah, that warms my heart to hear that somebody reached out like that. And just so everybody else can know, Blue Ridge Pride is in a partnership with Care for Children, which is a local organization here in Asheville, and we are helping promote and trying to recruit people in the LGBTQ community that want to foster care or that just want to take somebody for the weekend and get them out of the house, maybe, so that there's settle some, the heat around the house or something the conversation can get heated at times. And the kids, as I call them, because I'm older now, really need to, to have people that are helping to confirm their identity and making them feel welcome. I know you and I grew up in a generation that we didn't have those role models. And so I'm wondering, what was your evolution like, in accepting your identity and coming out, and how's that changed over the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a similar experience to folks our age or above, in that you grow up a sort of deeply closeted person, and then you have a life experience that changes you a little bit. For me, that was college, and being able to have an experience with other queer people, other gay people, who are living their normal lives and had boyfriends and girlfriends, and realizing that it wasn't about having this closeted life that you had to remain in for the rest of your life, but there was another alternative. And so, meeting those dear friends that I'm still very friends with today, some 30 years later, meant a lot to me and changed who I was. I also am usually pretty much a go-getter. I think I was the kind of young person who, I went to my first, gay meetup, and then the next weekend I was on the speakers bureau talking about what it's like to be a gay man, because that's just kind of my personality. And so really, Sweet Tea and, shows before that, that I've done in radio over the past 20 years have just been an extension of that. Again, I think for me, having queer people in roles and in positions of power and in positions of privilege, and I consider holding that microphone a great privilege and honor. I think having people like us queer folk, having that position is really going to help make a change, or should help make a change. And so that's what I've been trying to do for most of my adult life, really.
Let me ask you that word queer.
Yes, we just talked about this today, so thank you.
It comes up a lot. I do know that our younger generation is kind of reclaiming that word, and for a lot of us in our age group, that was a very derogatory term when we were growing up. How do you come to accept that now and talk to people about that word?
Yeah, I think queer, for me at least, we started using. I'm just the slightly younger generation, maybe below you, but Butch, but
Slightly.
slightly, and certainly ACT UP was an active organization before I came out. But the next generation we called ourselves Queer Nation, and so we were
Right.
staging kiss-ins at malls versus staging protests at City Hall. And
Right.
so what we were trying to do, I think at that time, we appreciate what the AIDS activists were doing for what was needed, but we just wanted to be seen and recognized and accepted for who we were, and not marginalized anymore. And we were going to take to the malls or to the streets and show our love for each other. And that is what Queer Nation was about. So for me, the term was used pretty early on in my gay life, and I think it's kind of broadened its appeal to young people today, because maybe bi doesn't quite fit who I am, or who a person wants to be, because trans inclusion now also has really gained a lot of exposure, and I think is helping change people's minds. So I feel like queer is a more all-inclusive term, and yes, I feel like Queer Nation back in the day already reclaimed that derogatory name, and I do, because I'm a little bit of a political person and a little bit of a pusher. I do like to reclaim words and use them right back at you.
Right, right. There's a lot of conversation that seems to go around, at least people that I talk to in the community, about all the pronouns now. And some people have said the pressure they feel to even put their pronouns just on emails or things like that. What are your thoughts about that topic?
Yeah, actually, it's a topic I really am dying to get on to Sweet Tea on the radio and have a discussion about, because I think it's an interesting one where I find myself surrounded by a lot of progressive people and a lot of queer and allied people as well, and yet so many of still struggle with using a pronoun, because it doesn't quite fit the gender expression or the facade of somebody, or how they're presenting. And I think it is an important one to stop and don't dismiss. Young people today, young queer folk, are at a much higher suicidal ideation. I'm sure you've heard that. And just by using the pronoun that they want can reduce, suicides by 50%, I've been told. So, there's a significant impact in how you present and how you want to be accepted. And it's not much different than what it was like when we were growing up. We just didn't have the words for it. Right. So, maybe I want to be a femme presenting, gay man. And maybe I didn't have the language to use. The trans was maybe where I was headed. And so using she, her, and let's be honest, Butch, I use she, her all the time. Girl.
Well, that makes me think, when you were talking about spilling the tea, I wonder how many people actually know where that phrase comes from, and if they actually understand what it's all about in the gay society, in the gay culture. tell me a little bit about why you chose that.
Well, I mean, I think RuPaul has changed a lot of people's understanding of a lot of our terminology, and I think
Yeah.
spilling the tea is just telling the truth and spilling it. Let's have a conversation and really discuss what the truth is and what we're really you know want to say or what we want to talk about. And so for me, I wanted to borrow that term, and then of
Yeah.
course we're here in the South, and it had some nice pairing there as well. So that's where we came up with sweet tea.
Well, and I saw we just had up on the screen some information about sweet tea. So I encourage everybody. It's a wonderful show. I try to listen to it every week. Sometimes it informs me of things that I don't know, and I'm very involved in the community too. So and it's always good to hear different opinions and people's voices and everything.
Yeah,
You and you're married, right?
I am married. Yes, my partner and I, we got married before it was legal in, but only 2 states. So
Oh yeah.
in fact, we were living here in North Carolina, and my partner Ed accepted a job in Vermont back in 2009 or 2010. And so at the end of the year, we were talking about healthcare and whether or not we were going to get that as part of the package for his
Right.
significant other or for his domestic partner. Back in the day, we used those terms. And they said, "Oh yeah, that's not a problem." And then we got there, and they said, "Oh, it's not a problem if you're married because we're a marriage state." So, on New Year's Eve, we asked the justice of the peace to come over to our apartment, and we got married there in Vermont back in 2010. So,
Wow.
we've actually been married longer than we have been boyfriends. To that term. So, marriage was not a huge, issue or important factor for either of us at that time. It wasn't the hot button issue that we thought the community needed to be sort of
Mm,
fighting for. And I think we're seeing some of the reasons why now, because even though we have marriage, we can still lose our jobs, we can still lose our apartment, we can still get kicked out of places and not get wedding cakes or whatever the case might be. And equality is what our hot button issue was even back then. So we got married because of the same reasons a lot of straight people do. That was to get health insurance.
yeah. Yeah.
But we're still fighting for equality today.
Yeah, and I think that's an ongoing battle, and I think that's just true for a lot of different aspects of society. We're always going to be doing that. What do you think about the region that we live in here in Western North Carolina, and what words could you give of encouragement or something about? Because we're fortunate to be in Buncombe County and Asheville, where we're a little blue bubble, but outside of us, it's a little bit a lot different in some cases. And I'm wondering, are there words of encouragement or ideas that you might have for people?
Yeah, I think Butch, that my husband and I have a small farm,
Yeah.
and we're actually located in Henderson County, and we're part of a farming community. We're part of a rural community. We're part
Yeah.
of a conservative community, and yet I feel like the connections that we've made, and who we are and presenting ourselves has really helped, you know build connections in that community. So I think we were hoping to change hearts and minds, and I think that people are welcoming, and our population all around us, conservative or not, is changing in regard to LGBTQ folks. I think we have made a pretty significant impact in the last 2 decades, in terms of our getting that equality, or at least being seen and recognized. And I think the biggest, help in that process was coming out. I think, making sure people knew that it was close to you. I can't tell you how many times, and you probably know this still to this day, folks who are not out to their parents or not out to their family,
Yeah.
and that doesn't, that might keep you safe, and I understand why some people might need to do that, but at the same time, I think you might be surprised at people's reactions if you do come out and living your authentic, true self. goes a long way in terms of people seeing you and seeing our community as something that is normal. So
Yeah, I always say that visibility is one of the best things because that will lead to acceptance and
yeah,
inclusion. And too often, I get it, people are scared to be too visible and share that. But there are more people out there that are accepting than we give credit for sometimes.
absolutely. And the South is the home to the most populous LGBT, has the most
Yeah.
LGBT folks living in it. And so especially here in the South, if we can make sure that people know who we are and just live our authentic selves,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
gain that visibility, I think it's going to help us all.
Tell me a little bit more about the farm.
Yeah, the farm I have it's called Tiny Bridge Farm, and we launched it when we returned to Asheville in 2017. We have a small CSA operation, so we grow organic
Oh,
vegetables on about 5 acres or more, and we offer a CSA option for families that are interested in receiving a box of food every week during the season. They pay us now. Actually, we're looking for people to sign up in February is typically when people do that.
oh,
And then what that does is that model, you pay for the full season up in February and before you start. And then the farmer has money then to buy seeds
oh,
and the inputs that are needed
makes
to grow the
sense.
food for the season. So the boxes we start delivering in June, and we grow in Henderson County, so we sell at two markets there. The Hendersonville Farmers Market on Saturday. We're going to be adding the Mills River Farmers Market on Saturday as
Okay.
well, and then hopefully with some luck we'll end up in West Asheville this season in the midweek market, and we deliver boxes to Asheville and Hendersonville.
Wow, that's quite a setup y'all have going on there. I'm surprised.
Yes, and I should say it's more my husband has the setup, not me. We've both been working our full-time jobs as we launched the business, and
Right.
the beginning of last season, Ed, my husband, quit his job, and went full-time on the farm. So
Cool.
we're really doing it. We actually have four people that work on the farm with us as well. Right now, they all happen to be queer identified folks too, and I think that's
Oh, very
very
nice.
exciting. And so, yeah, if you're interested in learning more about our farm and what we're doing, it's Tiny Bridge Farm in Henderson County.
And do you have a website or something?
We
Or
do. It's Tiny Bridge Farm on all the things. So, website,
okay,
Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us there.
perfect, perfect. I know we've just got a couple minutes left here, and I'm just wondering if you could circle back around to sweet tea and remind us when does that occur?
Yes,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
would really like for people to get more involved in that and see what you're offering.
You bet. It's we do 11 o'clock on Thursday mornings, and that's at 103.3 on the FM dial here in town. We also can stream at ashevillefm.org. You can find us on TuneIn, and again, you can find our app on the iPhone store or the Google Play Store. Just search for Asheville FM.
Wonderful. KP, thank you so much for your time. And I don't know whether I need to disclose this or not, but for all of you out there, KP is actually on the board of directors with Blue Ridge Pride. And he came on this year, and we're very excited to have him on this board and look at all the future that we can partner together, as well as with other communities that we partner with. So thank you for your
Of
time,
course.
KP. I appreciate it very much. I'll close out just by saying thanks to everybody who's watching. Generation Plus is a program through Blue Ridge Pride for our LGBTQ community, 55 and over. We do a lot of social activities. We do educational activities. You can find all that information on blueridgepride.org. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, KP.
Thank you.